I think what was powerful for me in avoidance reduction therapy was learning my pattern. Because when you're a person who stutters and you start a stutter, you just go into this cycle of whatever your behaviors are and you just do it. And sometimes you don't even know half the stuff you're doing because it's just happening, right? And so it wasn't until avoidance reduction therapy where the question was asked, what is your pattern? What do you do when you stutter? And I could tell you some of the stuff, but the other half of the stuff, it was just happening. It was automatic. And when I got the list, like completed, yeah, close your eyes, roll your eyes. I had this timing device. I would pat my hand like this on my foot. Nobody could see that I was slick, right? And is it called circumlocution? You know, talking around words, sound avoidances, word avoidances, avoiding speaking to people of authority in a sense, phone call. I mean, it was just a list of avoidance behaviors. And it was amazing hearing that, you know, your original stutter was just a basic, you know, stutter. I want the ball, you know, and then when the novelty of just ball wore off, now it becomes I want the ball. Now I've added the eye blanks, and now I want the ball. And then when that stops working, I want the now you add something else, ball. Yeah, and it was this whole idea of you've just been adding on all these behaviors over time just to get this word out. And just the way you've learned all those behaviors, you can actually unlearn them because they really are completely unassociated with the moment of stuttering. And I was like, huh? Like, I'm not doing these things on purpose. They're happening to me. It's like, no, you can actually unlearn them. And so it became a question of, okay, what of this list of behaviors, which ones impact your communication the most, your forward movement communication? And for a lot of us, it was eye contact. And so just working on eye contact, just having a conversation and working so hard at just not closing my eyes during this 2-minute conversation was the craziest experience ever because it actually took my mind off of the stuttering and really started making me focus on one thing as opposed to what everybody's thinking and oh my God, am I going to stutter? And they're looking at me funny. It just made me focus on eye contact for 2 minutes. And then for 2 minutes, I would have to have this conversation and not close my eyes because I was working so hard to keep them open. And that 2 minutes was over, and in the beginning I would go back into the closet or my room or wherever I was and just cry because it was so terrible. But then I would say, wow, I didn't close my eyes.
I had never been around people that stuttered, so when I first came to this program and I sat in a room full of people openly stuttering, I was really embarrassed for them. And I was thinking, like, why are they doing that? You know, because everything in my life had taught me to avoid that. It was such a freeing experience to sit in a room. You know, that was my first box that I could like openly stutter in. And I had never really had that feeling before of speaking spontaneously. I didn't even know that that was something that was possible. You know, that I could just speak without pre-thinking everything I was going to say and figuring out how I was going to navigate that communication. I could just go right to what I wanted to say, even if I stuttered throughout that process. And it's such a paradoxical idea that learning to open stutter is actually the way to speak better in my mind, you know, because then I could start dealing with, you know, my voice and my speech and, you know, my feelings. I just had to be myself.
I would block, and she would say to me stuff like, you do know when you're blocking, nobody has their hands around your throat. You do realize that. Like, nobody is like actually stopping the air from coming up and out. You know, it is your reaction to fear. Just when you're in that moment, just realize you're in the moment, be in that space, feel that fear, and just release your throat and just get on the sound because you're blocking on saying whatever the next sound is or the word is, and just let it go and just get on the sound. And so the first time I tried it, of course, we're avoiding blocking constantly, right? So I had to like let myself go into a block. And the first time I actually was able to be in the block and think in the block, like not think about, not panic, not worry, not care about what the person was, thinking about me or how they were looking at me, but just to think and have a conversation with myself. And I just heard her voice. Nobody's got their hands in their throat. Just let it release and get on the sound. And I was just like, bother you. And I couldn't believe it. It was like, and I was talking to myself like, oh my gosh. And I just like come out of that on my own. I actually talked myself through a block. Amazing experience. So what I've come to realize with just the stuttering journey is in arts therapy was the first time I heard people say, like what you in harmony with what you're saying, that it's okay to stutter. I mean, I remember being in therapy, in arts therapy, and like the first time showing an open stutter and people being like, yes! And Vivian go like, that was a great open stutter. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like what you were saying.
Yeah, the thought of I'm trying not to stutter, and everybody, it's been mentioned here before, and everybody says just go ahead and stutter. Like, wait a minute, this is confusing. This is not what I want to do. I want to not stutter, not stutter.
As long as you're willing to stutter. So if I'm wanting to say the word national and I'm caught on it, sometimes you get in a little bit of a loop and you're going, you can step back a little bit and say, okay, just a little slower, national. And so, but that's only okay if you're willing to stutter, if you're willing to be seen as a stutterer. If you're not willing to be seen as a stutterer, it will never help you because you'll still be worried about it in your mind.
There's no cure for stuttering, sorry to tell you. But you don't have to struggle with stuttering for the rest of your life. It doesn't have to keep you up at night. You don't have to go through all the mental gymnastics. You don't have to hate stuttering. You can actually love communicating and be a person who stutters. And it was just, I'd never heard that before. And I think that was the biggest takeaway of this whole thing was realizing that I didn't have a choice whether I stuttered or not, but I did have a choice as to how I stuttered.